say thanks to one other person who wasn't able to attend during the lunch session that we just had. Councillor Louise Jones has been on the council for the last couple of years. I would particularly like to thank her because following the death of David May, she stepped in at relatively short notice to stand with me in Ivybridge West and has been an outstanding councillor over the last couple of years. And I have a small present here for Louise to say thank you, because she will not be standing in the next election due to the commitments of her business. So I'd like it if we all gave her a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you, members. I'd like to ask Mr. White to give apologies, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. We've got an apology for absence from Councillor Rose. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. White. So at this point, I would like to invite the monitoring officer just to say a few words. It's a rather unusual full council meeting because we are technically involved in a period of purdah, and I wanted the monitoring officer just to clarify to all members before we begin exactly what that implies in terms of how the meeting is conducted. So if I can ask Mr. Fairbairn just to say a few words to start with.
Thank you, Chairman. All I was going to say, I don't think there's too much to say. Simply that clearly you don't need to be reminded that we are in a pre-election period, and during that period, council resources are not to be used for political purposes. I suppose the other thing I should say, and I'm sure the Chairman will be keeping an eye on this, and is making sure that speeches this afternoon are relevant to the matter under discussion. And there are no deviations, hesitations or whatever. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fairbairn. So agenda item number 1, the minutes. To approve a correct record of the minutes of the meeting of the council held on the 16th of February 2023. Do I have a proposer for that? Is Councillor Taylor, and a seconder would be Councillor Brown. Thank you. All those in favour?
Thank you, Chair. That's clearly carried for the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Items of urgent business. There are no items of urgent business to bring forward. So item 3, exempt information. There is going to be an item of exempt information when we come later on in the meeting to the exclusion of the press and public under agenda item 9 and 10 with Plymouth and South Devon Freeport. So we'll cover that when we come to it. Declarations of interest. In accordance with the Code of Conduct, members are invited to declare any disclosable pecuniary interest, other registrable interests and non-registrable interests, including the nature and extent of such interests they may have in any items to be considered at this meeting. Do any members wish to declare an interest? No? Oh yes, we do have one.
I don't know whether it's relevant, but I'm a member of Southam Society, just in light of the Freeport.
Okay, thank you. So we've had one member declare an interest. Business brought forward by the chairman. There is no business brought forward. So we move to agenda item number 6, which is the capital strategy, treasury management strategy and investment strategy. And I would ask Councillor Baston to introduce this report.
Thank you, Chairman. This report actually went through audit earlier in the month, but I will do an introduction for you. These 3 strategies are required to be presented annually to Council for approval and set out the Council's capital limits and borrowing limits and where the Council will invest its money on an annual basis. Members will recall that the Treasury Management training for members was arranged on the 22nd of March 2021, where the key points of the annual strategies were discussed. This will be arranged again in the late summer of 2023. The capital strategy sets out projected capital plans and the capital financing requirement, which is a measure of the Council's underlying need to borrow for the capital programme, which is a maximum of £26.2 million for 2023-24. This includes borrowing for leisure and investment property in Dartmouth, waste, housing, Batson Creek commercial units, Batson Creek Harbour Depot, Dartmouth Health and Wellbeing Hub, and Plymouth and South Devon Freeport. Strategies set out a position at a point in time and are based on the 2023-24 capital programme approved by this council in February this year. These three strategies can be revised at any point during the financial year. The council is proposing to continue to invest its money in banks and building societies within the UK, which is set out within the Treasury Management Strategy. The strategy at Appendix B also sets out the minimum revenue provision policy statement, and the MRP is the capital repayment of any borrowing. The operational boundary is recommended to be set at £35 million to reflect the current projected levels of borrowing, and the authorised limit is recommended to be set at £40 million. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Baston. Do members have any questions regarding this report? Councillor Pennell.
Thank you, Chairman. Are we dealing with all the report, all the sections at one time? I've got a question on the capital strategy Appendix A.
Yep.
I note that in 6.6 of the capital strategy, it says that regarding development or acquisition, the local ward member will be consulted in those cases. But if you look at 7.2, where the council is thinking of divesting assets, there's no mention of consulting the local ward member. I know of several cases where this has caused dissension and argument in the past. Is there any technical reason why that could not be amended in the future to include consultation with ward members?
Councillor, I cannot think of any reason why you shouldn't be consulted as a member, and I would expect that to happen if it was happening in your ward, that you would be consulted or at least advised of the situation anyway.
Yes, Councillor Pennell.
Secondly, I see that the capital value of the Marks and Spencers in Dartmouth has fallen from our purchase price of 5.029 million to 4.75, which I suppose in difficult times is the sort of thing we might have to expect. I just wondered if you or the our financial officer could tell us whether the income we've received in rental, without going into details, has covered that shortfall at the moment.
Would Mrs. Buckle like to answer that question?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. There's no change to our income stream. So we get the rental income from that investment property. In June time, there will be a report to the Audit and Governance Committee on the investment property position. We are having new asset valuations done. We haven't received those back yet on the investment properties. So we will get a new valuation of that investment property as at the 31st of March 2023. And that will form part of the report going to members in June to the Audit Committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to ask very similar things to Councillor Pannell. Dartmouth M&S has been covered. So on 6.6 in Appendix A, consulting ward members, I do note that a report came, I think it was before executive, on purchasing a building in Kingsbridge. I didn't know anything about it. So it doesn't look like 6.6 is necessarily actually happening, because as a ward member I wasn't consulted about this. So just to point that out.
Thank you. Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Chairman. The Appendix A, the point on the Freeport, which states that it's match funding for Langage. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the briefing last Thursday because I was at a county council meeting. but I have looked at the presentation and that talks about Sherford. Now, I'm getting a bit confused here because the proposal today that we will be looking at later is talking about reallocating government money. Is that from or to Sherford, or where does Sherford fit into that Appendix A? Surely that's what we agreed last time. I understood it was more than just Langage. So it feels like the conversation is moving, and I'm just wondering if that in the capital expenditure that we're looking at now, which we have to agree now, is that actually accurate, or is it's just determining a certain element of it? It seems that there's variations coming in all the time.
Mrs. Buckle, would you have a...
Chairman,
Mr. Brooke,
if I may, yeah, the position in the report as it reflects the council position as of now. There is another report on this agenda where the council will take a view as to whether they might wish to change that, but it reflects the situation as agreed by the council at the current time. So it's correct. Thank you.
Any further questions from any members before we move into the debate? No further questions. Can I have a recommendation proposed and seconded?
I move the recommendation as on the board.
Councillor Baston proposed, Councillor Pearce seconded. Does the seconder wish to speak now or reserve the right to the end of the debate? So, members, we move to the debate. Can I ask if any members wish to debate the agenda item number 6, the capital strategy, any part of it? Councillor Brazil.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yes, I mean, obviously this is annually reviewed. I won't be supporting this. I never have supported it. I do think that it doesn't give enough transparency to decisions that are taken. It delegates too much power to officers, and in some cases decisions do not have the opportunity for scrutiny. They are just reported to the executive, not taken as an agenda item. They can't be called in. I don't think that's correct. So I won't be supporting this, but rather than go to the ins and outs of it now, we will see what happens at next year's annual review. Thank you.
Councillor O'Callaghan.
Sorry, I was just going to make a very similar point, just along the lines of what I mentioned before about not being consulted on a particular item that went to executive. I mean, not that I necessarily have a problem with it, but I would have liked to have been asked about it in advance. And it does say in 6.6, ward members are consulted, but what is said on the paper isn't actually seeming to be always happening. So I do feel we should be transparent, and we are supposed to be, consulting our members and not just, making decisions without members being taken into consideration. We actually, we after all are elected by local people, so we should be consulted about what's actually happening in their name. Thanks.
Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you. Yeah, just as pointed out a few minutes ago, I do have major reservations about the Freeport and the changes that we're being asked to chip in a little bit more. Since that 5 million, for example, there was another $500,000 for sort of allocation to try and access some land. There's more coming onto this agenda, so I won't be supporting this because I have major reservations about our involvement in the Freeport system, and I certainly believe that the sort of scale of monies that we're constantly being asked for on this, which is very much a kind of I would say, a bit of pie in the sky. I think we should be doing public consultation. It's the public who we're borrowing money that we're borrowing against, not our own. Thank you.
Do any other members wish to comment on the debate before we move to close on this agenda item? Councillor Pearce, do you wish to comment on it before we close? Councillor Baston, as a proposer, you have the right, no need. So members, you have the recommendation in front of you on the screen and in the agenda that's sent to you. So I will move to the vote on this now and take it as a whole. All of those in favour of the recommendation as on the screen.
That's 17 in favour. Thank you, Chair.
And those against?
Ten against.
Any abstentions?
With 2 abstentions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So that recommendation is clearly passed. Agenda item number 7, the Modbury Neighbourhood Plan. Can I ask Councillor Pearce to introduce? It will be introduced by both Councillor Pearce and Councillor Taylor, who is the local member. But Councillor Pearce, if you'd like to introduce it first.
Thank you. Well, as as portfolio holder for planning, this falls to me to introduce this item. It is, as I always say, it's always a pleasure to have another neighbourhood plan being made. This one is especially welcome because it's been a long time in gestation and it's taken a few turns on the way, but I'm glad that we're there now. And I think I'll leave the rest to Councillor Taylor because it's really his baby, not mine.
Councillor Taylor.
But well done, Modbury.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, Modbury Neighbourhood Plan has been 8 years in the making, and Anne Turner, and she's chaired the team that has brought this forward. They've had a few hiccups on the way, mainly because of bad advice that they were given. Won't mention by whom or who, but at the moment that's all been amended. The neighbourhood plan now is, in my mind, is excellent, and it will serve the community very, very well. It went out to the public, was approved by 84%. People that didn't like it obviously wanted something else other than what was in there. But I hope that we can all get this neighbourhood plan made today and vote for it, because I don't think there's any reason not to. And I'm sure that if it was refused, the team would be devastated after 8 years of really hard work. And to be honest, it's difficult enough to work and do something like this, because the lady that was heading it was at full-time hospital work, and to get this in and do it after all that time, I think is excellent. So I would propose that the neighbourhood plan is made.
Do members have any questions on it? Councillor Parnell.
Thank you, Chair. Just one quick one. I echo your comments. I have read it quite thoroughly. I hope I haven't missed something, but on page 94 it talks about the possibility of a southern relief road in the future. Can I just ask what planning constraints there are to see that the route for that would be safeguarded should it ever need to come about?
Oh, Councillor Taylor, yeah.
This relief road was put around when Owen Gifford, or Houghton Gifford, or whatever you like to call it. Owen Gifford. AG. We call it AG. But that was put around when that was approved, the relief road for AG, as I've been advised. So I think it's all in the making still. I don't think it'll ever happen because it got to go to, obviously, that's government, a government thing, but hopefully, but I mean, obviously, because it's in route was in the AONB, then it would have a lot of planning restrictions on it. So I'm sure that will be looked at when the time comes.
Councillor Callaghan.
It's kind of more of a comment, I suppose, but I don't know, Councillor Taylor will correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understand it, the local people who were involved in the neighbourhood plan wanted a primary residence clause, which was deleted at examination stage, which is very similar to what happened in Kingsbridge with the Kingsbridge neighbourhood plan. So yeah, it appears to be correct. So I just think it's a shame if that's what people want, primary residence. We've declared a housing crisis in the South Hams, and it just seems very frustrating that one of the key things that actually people, as you mentioned, take years and years to try and work out what is wanted by local people, are unable to have it because of central diktat that that's not the right percentage, it's 20% or whatever. And I'd just like to register that I feel that must be very frustrating. I don't know what you were referring to when you said some people were badly advised, whether it was that or something else. But I don't know whether you agree with me, but certainly it was frustrating for people in Kingsbridge and Churchstowe and West Alvington, that primary residence clause having to be deleted after all their efforts.
Councillor Pearce.
Yeah, well, Councillor Callaghan's quite right that this does refer to the High Court decision on the challenge at against the St Ives neighbourhood plan, where the developers who'd got sites in St Ives challenged the primary residence condition that they'd put on, and they had 21% second homes at the time, so that is the established figure for a second home requirement. Now, there is some encouraging news for the time being, although we don't know where it's going to go, because the Teambridge local plan is currently under review, and they have put in for primary residents throughout the district, but with very little justification. So we on the Joint Local Plan Board and team are keeping a close eye on what happens there, because it'll be interesting to see what the inspector says. If the inspector says okay, then obviously that's going to be a green light here too. But I think it's not without some difficulty. I mean, for instance, I think it would be difficult to bring Sherford forward on primary residence only, although people might mostly be wanting those houses for primary residence. But there could be people who, like our esteemed chief executive, only live here when they're working, and the rest of the time they live somewhere else. So, and that could well apply to people who are in Plymouth. So I think you need to be careful what you wish for, because it could have unintended consequences. I think where we've got it at the moment, it's working okay around the coastal villages, but it may not work in the towns. And I think for that reason, and I think everybody considers Modbury to be a town, not a village, because it looks like a town and it behaves like a town. And I know there's a village in the district where they think they're the same and they ought to be a town, but they're not. So just keep an eye on what happens in Teambridge, because that might be a red or a green light for us in the future.
Any further questions on it before we move to the debate?
Chairman,
No.
can I come back?
Yeah, Councillor Taylor?
Yeah, just to answer on the neighbourhood plan, that they can be amended as it goes along anyway. So if this came about, then I'm sure that everybody would be in favour of making a minor amendment to the plan.
Thank you. The recommendation has been already proposed by Councillor Taylor. Do I have a seconder for the recommendation? Councillor Rowe. And would you like to speak to the recommendation, Councillor Rowe, or reserve the right at the end of the debate? Do any members wish, we move on to the debate, do any members wish to debate the, Councillor Hodgson?
Thank you, Chairman. As when I was first involved with Dartington and Totnes neighbourhood plans, Modbury was one of the groups that we linked in with, and I just wanted to congratulate them for the work they've done. I know how much that we were all very much in alignment in terms of some of the aspirations. And as has been pointed out, one of the aspirations was to improve the number of homes that would be available to meet local housing needs, rather than that constant pressure of people who wanted holiday homes and second homes. So I think it's really interesting that they went that far. I know Totnes has wanted to do it, so has Dartington. And I think it's something I thank Councillor Pearce for actually making those comments, because I think that could be quite interesting. But I just really wanted to just say congratulations. I think it's a good plan, and yeah, welcome it. Thank you.
Councillor Baldry.
Thank you, Chairman. I really wanted to say positive things in support of that. I think Modbury is a magnificent town in the South Hams. It is a gem. Goes back to Doomsday, I believe. I was involved in the on the sidelines,
building it.
and that, Councillor Thomas, is why it still continues in a sturdy state. Just going to say, I think it's a lovely town. It says it in the report. It's dignified terraces, slate hung walls, old shop windows and classical doorways combine to create a fine urban landscape in a rural setting. It's a good town. They work very hard. I was on the sidelines being consulted in the early days of creating the neighbourhood plan. Congratulations to the team who did it. You come up with an excellent job. Thank you.
Do any other members wish to speak on the Modbury Neighbourhood Development Plan?
Just to say something, if I may.
Yeah, so Councillor Rowe, as the seconder, would you like to speak, having reserved your right to speak?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Well, I would like to say probably the same thing as the previous speakers have said. Well done to Modbury for their neighbourhood plan. I know it's not easy to do a neighbourhood plan. My own village of Stoke Gabriel, we've been working on ours for about the past, I don't know how many years. We're getting there slowly, but it is very difficult, and we have open days and people come and they don't want this there and they want something else somewhere else. And if we don't support our local villages, then I'm afraid that in some instances, some of the business, etc., will disappear. So we do need to have businesses. We need to have the right people living in our villages. We have proposal with the second homes paying second 200% council tax maybe in 2024. But I congratulate Modbury and I would say well done to the team. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor, so as the proposer, you have the right to conclude the debate before we move to the vote. Would you like to speak?
Yeah, just to clarify that Modbury's only got 4% second homes. So that was just coming back on you, answer. But apart from that, I hope you all find it fit to vote this in favour of this neighbourhood plan. Thank you.
So members, you have the recommendation before you that the council approves the making and adoption of the Modbury Neighbourhood Plan. We'll move straight to the vote. All those in favour?
That's unanimous. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, members. So we move to agenda item number 8, the reports of different bodies. The first item on that is the Licensing Committee on the 5th of January. Can I ask Councillor Brown to present the minutes?
Thank you, Chairman. I herewith give the minutes of the Licensing Committee held on the 5th of January 2023 for noting. I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. There's no recommendation on there, so we'll move on to item B, Development Management Committee, 15th of February. Can I ask Councillor Foss to present the minutes?
Yes, Chairman, I present the minutes of the meeting of the 15th of February. There are no recommendations, so I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Foss. The Council Tax Setting Committee, 22nd of February. Can I ask Councillor Pearce to present the minutes, please?
Chairman, I present the minutes of the Council Tax Setting Committee in February 2023 for noting, and I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. We return to Councillor Brown again for the Licensing Committee on the 9th of March 2023. Can I ask Councillor Brown to present the minutes?
Thank you, Chairman. I move that the minutes of the Licensing Committee held on the Thursday 9th of March are noted. I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. As Chairman of the Audit and Governance Committee, I would present the minutes of that committee on the 9th of March 2023, pages 135 to 142. There is a recommendation in those minutes. However, the recommendation is that we bring the capital strategy, the treasury management strategy and the investment strategy to full council, which we have done under agenda item number 6 and voted on as well. So there is effectively no recommendation to approve on those minutes because we've effectively dealt with it under agenda item number 6. But I do present the minutes for noting. Can I ask Councillor Foss to present the minutes of the Development Management Committee, 15th of March?
Oh, sorry, that's not on. Yes, Chairman, I present the minutes of the Development Management Committee, 15th of March, and again, no recommendations, so I still move.
Thank you. And can I ask Councillor Brazil to present the minutes of the Salcombe Harbour Board, 20th of March?
Thank you, Chair. Very happy to present the minutes of the Salcombe Harbour Board on the 20th of March for noting. Thank you.
Thank you. So we move to agenda item number 8, which is the executive on the 2nd of March. There are 2 recommendations within that executive meeting. Can I ask Councillor Pearce to present the minutes?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I present the minutes of the executive meeting held on the 2nd of March 2023. The first recommendation to come to Council is that Council be recommended to approve the minor amendments to the Year 3 Better Lives for All delivery plans as set out in Appendix A of the present agenda report, and that is on page 158 of the present agenda papers.
We have a proposer. Do we have a seconder for that recommendation?
Seconded, Chairman.
Councillor Baston. Do any members wish to ask any questions or debate on that recommendation before we move to the vote? No, so we will move to the vote. All of those in favour?
That's 29 unanimous. Thank you, Chair.
Unanimous vote. Thank you, members. Mr. Bates is leaving on the next agenda item because it relates to himself. So I'll just give him a minute to get out the door. We move to the second recommendation from the executive on the 2nd of March. I'll ask Councillor Pearce to introduce it.
Thank you, Chairman. The second recommendation for your consideration is on page 165 of the agenda, and it is that Council be recommended to accept the recommendations of the independent report on senior officer pay undertaken by the Local Government Association and improve the revised pay and grading structure for the senior leadership team.
Do we have a member to second that recommendation?
Secondly, Chairman.
Councillor Baston, do any members wish to speak on this recommendation or ask questions? Councillor Brazil.
Yeah, if I could just ask a question. I'm very pleased to see that the Chief Executive showed pay restraint and rather than going for the full recommendation as in this report, said that he would limit any increase in his pay would be limited to the 6%, which is the same as everyone in the council, officers that is, and that his senior leadership team followed suit. And I mean, as that stands, that's not actually what we're recommending. And I just wondered if there was any, if it should be in there, or do we just take it as a comment that the Chief Executive has said that, and that will just happen automatically? So that's just really a question.
Councillor Brazil, the reason we looked into this was because of the problems of recruitment and retention, particularly of senior officers in the council. Now, we have a stable senior leadership team at the moment, but at the moment is today. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? So I think what this sets up is the right framework for the senior leadership pay to happen in. What the senior leadership team do within that framework is entirely up to them. So I can't speak for them, and I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I hope that helps to answer your question.
Do any other members wish to question or comment on it? Councillor Hodgson.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my understanding was that was what was on the table from Mr. Bates, and I just think maybe we should maybe put an amendment in there, because if that's what's being offered, then I think we should accept that, because then if that's our clear understanding of what we're agreeing to, rather than that kind of leaving a bit of a wobble. The other thing I would say is that I do, as much as I sometimes feel very uncomfortable supporting what I would consider very high wages, given the crisis that many people face at the moment, I do think that we have to support our public services. So, and if the issue is about recruitment and retention of staff, and this will fix it, then I do support that principle. But I'm just wondering if we should be putting in an amendment in there, just along the lines of that Councillor Brazil has just outlined.
Do you wish to propose an amendment then?
Yes, I do. I'm just trying to think of the wording for it. Give me a second.
Perhaps Mr.
Yeah.
White would be able to assist with that. And in the meantime, I'll come to Councillor Pearce. Would you like to speak?
Well, again, I would recommend against an amendment, because I think we are in a good place. What the officers choose to do is up to them. It's like members. We have a members' allowance system, but each member can renounce their allowance, or renounce it in part, or give it to charity, or do what they want with it. You don't have to take your allowance. Now, this is a similar situation. What I'm saying is, were we to lose a member of the senior leadership team for whatever reason, be it that they wanted to leave, or they fell under a bus, or whatever, but things happen, we are presently in a position with a framework there to be able to go out to recruitment in a very competitive market, knowing that we are reasonably competitive, at least within Devon, because that's what we've looked at closely. And if you do anything else, you are putting this council potentially in peril. And I think that's what you need to consider. You need to consider the good of the council and the good of the residents that this council governs or looks after.
Can I just clarify, are you happy with the wording of the amendment, Councillor Hodgson?
I am, thank you.
Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Chairman. I can't see a comparison between members' allowances and full-time wages for senior officers, I must confess. I'd also make the point that what's up on the screen in red now is the council noting the offer of the senior leadership. It doesn't say forevermore senior leadership will only do that. It doesn't say that. It says we are noting a gesture. And at a time when people are struggling, I think we as a council should be applauding the officers for doing that, and we should be publicising the fact that we're doing it. Well, it may well have been publicised, Councillor Pearce, but if we're going through this meeting now, we may as well publicise it some more, mightn't we?
So, Councillor Hodgson, you have an amendment there, which I take you're proposing. Do we have a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Brazil seconded. Do any other members wish to speak on the amendment before we take the vote on the amendment? No? So I believe I'm right in saying, Mr. White, that we now move to the vote on the amendment as it is in the red on the screen above. So we are now voting that we add the additional words and that the council notes and offers the offer of the senior leadership team to limit their annual pay award to 6% in line with other staff members. We're adding those words to the recommendation. So those in favour of this amendment, please indicate.
That's 27 in favour of the amendment. Thank you, Chair.
Any against?
None against.
I shall abstain, Mr. White.
There may be more, Chair.
Any abstentions other than me?
3. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So that amendment is clearly passed along with the substantive motion. We then move to agenda item number 9, I believe.
No, we need to vote on this now. As the
We vote on the substantive motion now. So the substantive motion is as it is before you, members. The recommendation as it is on the screen. All of those in favour?
That is unanimous. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, members. So we move now to agenda item number 9, the exclusion of the public and press. Now, I will invite a proposer and a seconder for the recommendation. Do I have a proposer to exclude the public and press? Councillor Pearce proposed, Councillor Brown seconded. All those in favour? Oh, you wish to speak, Councillor Brazil?
I do, yeah.
Right, but so before we move to the vote, sorry, members, before we move to the vote, Councillor Brazil wishes to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I have to say I'm very concerned that we are taking decisions in with exclusion of the public and press when we're spending large amounts of council taxpayers' money. I cannot see why this report cannot be written in pointing out principles and strategies. It doesn't need to go into the figures at all. And I think the lessons learned from other councils up and down this country that have found themselves in the position of enormous debt. And the one thing that carries through with that is a lack of transparency with decision making. And I think that this kind of debate, talking about spending millions of pounds of taxpayers' money, should be out in the open so the public can see it. They may not agree with the decision, but at least they can see how the decision was arrived at. Because I'm sorry, I think this is too much cloak and daggers when we're talking about taxpayers' money. Thank you.
Do any other members wish to speak on this matter? Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you. I agree. I can't see. I mean, in terms of the recommendation, I can't. Apart from our own commercial interest, I can't see that any outside commercial interest is being cited here. So I can't see that we actually, therefore, would need to kind of go into closed to protect anybody's commercial interests except our own. And I fully agree with the points that have been made about public scrutiny and public openness about this. It's very important. There's a lot of money here.
Any other members wish to speak? So, members, we have a recommendation before you that has been proposed and seconded that in accordance with Section 100A, Part 4 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public and press be excluded from the meeting during consideration of the following items of business in order to avoid the likely disclosure of them of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of Part 1 of Schedule 12A to the Act. We will move to that vote. All those in favour?
That's 16 in favour of the recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
And those against?
With 13 against. Thank you,
Any
Chair.
abstentions?
No, thank you.
The recommendation is therefore passed, and can I now confirm that the live streaming has also We therefore move on to the questions. There are no questions that have been received, and we have one motion which is on agenda item number 14, which has been proposed by Councillor Chown and seconded by Councillor Hodgson. Can I ask Councillor Chown to introduce the motion to the Council?
Thank you, Chair. This motion commits South Downs District Council to engage in respectful, courteous and constructive debate at all times. If the motion is passed, all councillors must uphold exemplary standards of conduct. Anyone not doing so can be held to account, as the council have agreed to a zero tolerance approach. Politicians should be role models. Councillors must lead by example and epitomise the kind of language and behaviour that we expect from our residents. If we are to encourage and promote healthy debate amongst our communities, then we must practice what we preach. I believe the people we represent want to see and hear factual information, not opinions, sensationalism, sweeping statements or debate that deliberately provokes reaction or fuels division. In my 4 years at this council, I have often witnessed debate that is, at best, unnecessary and unhelpful. However, there has also been many occasions where councillors have worked together constructively and collaboratively. The debate and discussion has been respectful, and we have achieved great outcomes that are in the best interest of all our residents. It is on these occasions that I'm sure we all feel positive about our roles and proud to be part of this council. For any of you here that get re-elected, it is your responsibility to lead by example and demonstrate the highest standards to the new councillors that join the council in May. I hope this motion will support you to achieve this, and the next 4 years will be a positive and productive era for this council.
Thank you. Councillor Hodgson, do you wish to speak now or reserve your right to speak later?
I'll speak later. Thank you, Chairman.
Speak later. So we now enter the debate on the motion. Councillor Purnell.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to propose an amendment. We're talking about politeness and consideration and respect for others. Thank you, because I heard the sighs of exasperation. I don't see what's wrong with proposing a simple amendment. Thank you. Which, thank you, Mr. White has put on the board. To add, when we talk about working with the government and the LGA to implement a plan to address the abuse and intimidation of politicians, we include the restoration of the power to suspend councillors at all levels of local government whose behaviour is deemed under the standards complaints procedure to warrant this sanction. Are you content for me to expand on that now, Chairman?
Well, do you have a seconder?
Yes.
Yeah, Councillor Thomas second. So
thank you.
If you'd like to speak to the amendment now, Councillor.
Thank you very much. I applaud the reasons for why this motion has been brought to council, and I wholeheartedly support it. I think there's one important element missing. For any code of conduct to be effective, there has to be effective teeth and sanctions if that code is not followed. I'll quote from the from our own council guidance on the standards complaints on our website. And I quote, "Whilst the council takes its duties and powers regarding the standards regime seriously, and the above procedure ensures that there are a fair process for considering and dealing with standards complaints, there are limitations on the potential outcomes to standards complaints. There are also limitations to the potential sanctions where a councillor is found to have broken the code. The ability of the council to impose and enforce meaningful sanctions or remedial action was severely curtailed by the changes to the standards regime introduced by the Localism Act of 2011. This Act also repealed all of the preceding ethical governance legislation in its entirety. This lack of meaningful sanctions in most serious cases means that a councillor who's been found to have been bullied, harassed or threatened other councillors or officers can continue to do so with impunity. The likely punishment for this appalling behaviour is to ask the culprit for an apology, and if this is not forthcoming, the councillor can continue to intimidate and abuse colleagues. The councillor at fault can be prevented from communicating with certain other members or officers but this does not prevent unacceptable behaviour continuing at meetings, which they are free to attend and speak at. I know of cases across the country where councillors and staff have had to seek counselling or resign from making valuable contribution to the community because they are afforded such inadequate protection from aggressive and intimidatory behaviour. I believe we as a council should be joining other authorities who agree we need to protect our fellow councillors and officers by restoring the power to suspend the worst offenders, if necessary for a significant period. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Thomas, do you wish to speak now, or?
No, I will speak. I will speak now, Chairman. Thank you. I mean, when this motion first came up, I mean, I have to be honest, Councillor Chan, I was dismayed that anyone would feel, uncomfortable in this room. I take enormous pleasure in my monthly or bi-monthly fencing sessions with Councillor Hopwood, where I manage to be just about as rude to her as I can get away with, and I receive her disappointment in return. And to me, that's part of the cut and thrust of what we do here. But actually, Councillor Chan, you are right to have brought it, and Councillor Pannell makes a really relevant point to add in, which I hope you, as the proposer of the motion, will support. Members, as you know, when I'm not here, I'm a teacher. And what we're saying here about being kind is really important. But if I went out onto the playground of the school that I teach in and said everyone was to be kind, and then when they weren't said, oh dear, that's a shame, they wouldn't be kind. We need to have a mechanism that allows errant councillors, where they appear at various levels of local government, to be reminded that there are ways of treating people, and if you overstep the mark, just as there is in every other walk of life, there is a consequence. So this amendment is asking us to write to the government. It's not asking us to change anything. It's asking us to ask the government for their support. And in that respect, I very much hope that the original proposer and seconder will support it. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Smurden.
Thank you, Chairman. I will, if this amendment is accepted by the proposers, then I would support it. I know where this motion is coming from. I have witnessed 4 years of frustration by a particular council, and I share that frustration. The fact that neither that council or the monitoring officer here has been able to effectively do much about it has been a great cause of concern, certainly for that council and for the members involved. The government, in their wisdom, removed the powers to suspend councillors because I think somebody thought that it was possibly being used politically. I don't know. I couldn't, But I would, if this is accepted, then I would urge members to support it, because I do know the reasons behind this, and yeah, you wouldn't have wanted to have gone through what that parish council has gone through.
Councillor Hopwood.
Thank you, Chairman. I think, of course, we should support this. There is just no excuse in life to be intimidated, abused, bullied, undermined, talked down to. We are all adults, and I think that's an excellent addition to the recommendation, Councillor Pannell, and I hope that it becomes a substantive motion. I did listen to Councillor Chowan's introduction, and in his introduction he said, some of the things he didn't like were opinions, people's opinions that became a bit borderline. Well, I don't mind anybody's opinion as long as they agree with my opinion, so that's absolutely fine. But at the end of the day, we all have got a right to an opinion, and it's how we're treated when we give our opinion that actually counts, because it's a bit like, I always take the view, because I ask loads of them, no question is a stupid question if you want to ask it. So I think we all need to be respectful to each other, and we just need to remember, actually, do you know what, we're all in this for one thing, and that's to help our residents and to serve the South Hams. So I would hope, Councillor Chowan, you can accept this as a substantive motion, and we can just now vote on it, because I'm dying for a cup of tea.
Councillor Foss.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I was listening to what Councillor Thomas was saying. I've got members of my family who are teachers, and I hear what happens at school about the disrespect and everything else. But Councillor Brazil will also know that we have certain parish councils that we both go to that, to say the least, it gets out of hand at times. And I hope this is going to apply to parish councillors as well as us. And other than that, I fully support, and I hope Councillor Chown can, like others have said, can agree to that amendment on there, and I will fully support it.
I'll give you a right to conclude at the end.
Well, I just wanted to clarify that the motion, the amendment just say all members vote.
Councillor Brazil?
That's all right.
Councillor Brown?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm very happy to support this. I think that residents, parishioners, sometimes think that members come to this council with a variety of perhaps malign and malicious motives, but I'm sure every single member of this council, no matter what their political hue, and I know they do, comes to this council in order to try and make their local area a better place and serve those people who have, done the nice thing and voted for us to be here. But that also goes for the way, as Councillor Thomas says, that we interact with each other, and that needs to be of a good standard to ensure that we are setting a demonstration to others. And I see at the bottom it says take a zero tolerance approach to abuse of councillors and officers. Fortunately, in my 8 years on this council, I have only been abused by the public on one occasion, and that was actually literally just outside this council chamber after a planning committee meeting where I had voted something which one or two of my residents didn't particularly want me to do, and the chap who was a vociferous objector to the application came up to me and he was waggling his finger at me like this, and he went, I'm going to have you, I'm going to report you to Streeter. I was like, go on then. And I said, all right, fine. We'll see what happens there then. Fortunately, that's the only sort of really negative experience that I've had, and it was very quick and it was over quickly. But I appreciate other members may have had more sustained periods of abuse, and that is, of course, unacceptable. So I'm delighted to support this. I hope everybody else will, and I hope it does set a standard for how we should be behaving to both each other and indeed the members of the public for whom we serve. Thank you.
Councillor Hopwood, can you turn your microphone off?
Oh, yes.
Councillor Holway.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I thought we were working like this already, to be honest. So I was a little bit perplexed. Please excuse me smiling earlier, Councillor Thomas. I'm left with this thought of you holding a child up by the scruff of the neck and saying, you will be kind. But yeah, I think we should be working like this. Of course we should. Thank you.
Councillor Pearce?
Yes, I don't see anything wrong with this amendment, because I think we are still talking to the amendment, aren't we? We seem to have got a bit off track. Except that the restoration of the power, what we're talking about is the Standards Board for England, or its equivalent, or something else that does the same job. And now it's been abolished, I don't see it being restored, but I suppose we can always try, can't we? And we can live in hope.
We can ask.
So, Councillor Pennell, as the proposer of the amendment, you have the right to conclude the debate on the amendment. Do you wish to say anything? So we will move to the vote on the amendment.
You've got to get him to vote in.
Sorry?
Matthew got to accept it.
All right, can I go to Councillor Chown? Are you happy to accept the amendment? Yes. So Councillor Chown is happy to accept the amendment. Mr White,
And Councillor Hodgson too, please, Chair.
Councillor Hodgson, are you happy to accept the amendment?
I am, and I wouldn't mind a couple of words on it if it's going to be the final bit to speak on, because I didn't speak on it because I was there for the original motion. I'm happy to accept this.
So you're happy to accept the amendment, so we move to it as a substantive motion?
I would just like to speak on it, if you don't mind.
Yeah, if you'd like to speak on it.
I've agreed to second them. Yeah, I agree the points that have been made about that we are doing this anyway, and I think broadly we do in this chamber. I've been in this chamber for 12 years now, and I think it's, that, we get opinions, and I slightly disagree with Councillor Chown. I do think that, as Councillor Hopwood said, and it's rare we agree, that actually I think opinions are valuable, because it's otherwise we don't dare to dream. If we didn't dream, because we don't know the facts of the dream, but sometimes we just want to show something that's maybe looking a bit different. Has somebody else got their microphone on? I can hear it singing somewhere. No. But anyway, what I just wanted to say was, I think, you know, if we don't have some kind of, and I thank Councillor Panel for bringing up this amendment, because actually, otherwise it's a bit of a slippery slope. You know, it's a slippery slope anyway, but then if you haven't got something that just holds it up, and I have been on a council where there was an unfortunate, where actually the committee here actually sanctioned somebody, and when it came back to the parish council concerned, there was nothing that could be done except this person stood up and made an 8-minute speech of further hate, to be frank, and it was horrendous. So having some power to suspend would have been much better than expecting somebody who had misbehaved already to say sorry. So I think this is hopefully good, and yeah, it'd be good if there was a board that was actually there behind it to actually support this. But I think even if it's at our local level, ideally if it comes up before one of our committees, then we can actually sanction something. Thank you.
Councillor Chown, as the main proposer, do you wish to make any further comment? No. So, Mr. White, I think I'm right in saying that we are moving to this as the substantive motion.
That's correct.
Would
Chair.
you just like to explain further?
So where we are, Chair, is the original notice of motion is in the blue font. The amendment which was put by Councillor Panel and seconded by Councillor Thomas is in the red. That has subsequently been accepted by the original proposer and seconder, being Councillors Chown and Hodgson. So as you rightly say, we are in the realms of voting on that as the substantive motion.
Thank you, members. So all those in favour?
And that is unanimous. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, members. That concludes the meeting. Councillor Baldry.
Just to say, Chairman, I won't have a chance to say this at the annual meeting because I won't be here, but thank you for your chairmanship. I think you've been an excellent chairman over the past year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I'll conclude the meeting. Thank you, members. I'll conclude the meeting.